Good morning. It's so nice to have you here this morning. We're going to pray together, and then I just want to say with two things. The one is, which is important, is that this coming Friday, we have a service at 9 o'clock. It's going to be in Afrikaans, but it's usually a great experience because we have like these stations of Jesus' life on Friday. So you are more than welcome to join us Friday morning at 9 o'clock. It will be really a great experience for you and your whole family to come this coming Friday, 9 o'clock. That's Good Friday. And come and experience the Passion of the Cross with us. And then Barry, thank you for making us gifts. He made us some special gifts for Easter. It was his hard work. And each one of you are more than welcome. Here at the iDesk, it's on this side, not the iDesk at the door, but when you go out for coffee, he made us some crosses, and that's for Easter, in the light of Easter. And thank you, Barry, for that. We appreciate that a lot. And you're more than welcome to go and fetch one. Barry also made me one, and it was standing there in our kitchen, on the kitchen table. And Annabelle, she's now 3 years old, she came in running, and she took it, she grabbed it off, and she's saying, "Oh," but she's now obviously Afrikaans, and she's saying, "Oh, hier is Jesus cinnamons." So as if it's not ours, she said, "No, it's Jesus' cross. It's not ours. We must give it back to him." So in any case, thank you, Barry. We're going to give you time now for your offering. Thank you. If you're new here this morning, you're more than welcome to let the basket go past you. Thank you for giving and supporting us.
sins, that we might become His righteousness. He humbled Himself, carried the cross. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. His body the bread, His blood the wine, broken and poured out, all for love. The whole earth trembled, veil was torn. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, rescue for sinners, ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. All our hope is in You. All our hope is in You, Lord. All the glory to You, God, Light of the world. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, rescue for sinners, ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. The splendor of the King, cloaked in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, all the earth rejoice. He wraps Himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at His voice, and trembles at His voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see how great our God. Age to age he stands. Time is in his hands. Beginning and the end. Beginning and the end. The God at 3 in 1. Father, Spirit, Son. The Lion and the Lamb. The Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. He's the name above all names, worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing how great is our God. His name above all names. He's the name above all names, worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And all will see how great is our God.
Lord, when we think about our lives, this is our declaration. You are good and you are more good than we can ever imagine, Lord. To think that the God who created the universe is interested in my life, it is so overwhelming, Lord. Thank you, Lord, that you are interested in each one of our lives. We open up our hearts and we give it as a living offer to you this morning. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you very much. You may take your seat. Thanks, guys. So I forgot to mention something. Dulay was in the hospital the past week, or actually 2 weeks ago, I think, for an operation in his back. So everything went successful and a lot of miracles along the way that we saw. And we just ask you to keep on praying for Dulay as he recovers. Okay, good. This morning, I think I want to start with, we are looking towards the cross, Easter, that's coming up Friday, Easter weekend, but also today is Palm Sunday. I don't know if you know, in the Christian calendar, today is Palm Sunday, and it's the day that Jesus came into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey. And I was thinking, while we are looking, each Easter actually, I want to have a look at my own life. I think where I was back in my life and how Christ really changed my life. And I remember about 15 years ago, I'm not proud of it, but about 15 years ago, I was busy with a lot of things in my life, habits, or if you can call it maybe addictions in my life, that was really not good for me or the people around me. At that stage, some of the stuff that became legal last week, I was so disappointed that it only became legal last week. I wish it was legal 15 years ago. But I was busy with some of those kind of things, and it was really not a good thing in my life, and especially not my parents' life, and what the neighbors thought about this kid of them smoking some strange things on top of the roof of our house, and also some bad habits regarding drinking and stuff like that. And I just realized 15 years ago, Christ came into my life and how He changed my life. And if I kept on that road that I was, where would I have been? Especially today that I have 2 kids, I was thinking to myself, how would I have looked as a father? How would my life be if I never came to Christ? And that brings us to Easter. So many of you, if you saw me 15 years ago on my skateboard with my pants, those days we didn't pull up our pants. Our pants were like here. And if you saw me back then, you were like, poor guy, poor family. I remember this one time I was walking in the mall with my parents. We were on holiday in PE. And one of my friends, I don't know what style it was. Luckily, we don't have any pictures of those days. But I made my hair with gel. I don't know if you even get gel anymore these days. But like these points and stuff. So we were walking in PE in the mall. And I remember we didn't walk, obviously, me and my friend, we didn't walk with my parents because we were in high school and it's boring to walk with your parents. So we were walking in front. And I just remember my mom and dad laughing about this years later. They told us that while we were walking in the mall, these other elderly people came past us. And while they went past us, they didn't realize the next people coming up is the parents. So they were just like, I'm so glad this is not my kids. They're going to cause a lot of trouble for their parents. So ashamed my mom and dad just walk on, but we can laugh about that years later. So I don't know if you have seen ever in your life an accident coming. We were a while ago, like 3 years ago, we were on our way back to Pretoria. We went to watch Lincoln Park. And we came back, and I remember while I was driving, I saw in my mirror here, there was a reckless guy all the way, I can say almost to Pretoria. And we passed him, and I saw in my mirror here, him making an accident. I don't know if you ever seen an accident, but I don't know what he did, but all of a sudden the car went from going straight to turning like this, and then I saw at the back in my mirror, the car actually rolled. So it was quite shocking to see that. But we could have seen that coming. I mean, just to pass that guy, you know people like that, driving like that, you can almost feel something's going to happen. You can anticipate the danger that's coming. And sometimes when we walk past people like my parents and when I was a child, you can see the parents is letting the children do whatever they want to, and you can see these children are going to cause their parents a lot of shame and harm one day. So you can actually see the accident is going to happen sometime. I don't know if you've seen it, but especially we that work in a church, we see that quite often. We sit almost, on the side of people's lives, and we see the decisions that people are making, and we see the choices, the bad choices they make, how that undermines their happiness. To have a happy life, you can see this choice that you're making now, it's a bad choice. Financially maybe, or relational maybe, but you can see this is an accident waiting to happen. This addiction that the guy has, maybe it's alcohol. You can see him having a bad habit of alcohol, and you can see this is an accident waiting to happen. It's going to destroy the relationships of that guy that he actually loves the most. And we can anticipate in other people's life that there is an accident waiting to happen. And it breaks our hearts, isn't it? It breaks our hearts when we see somebody making decisions that's undermining their own happiness. And the tricky thing about this is, we would never do stuff to our own lives to undermine our own happiness initially. Because then we won't do it. But we do certain things in our lives that doesn't look as bad as it's going to be in 10 years' time. Initially, it doesn't look bad. But when you look at from a distance to their life, you can see eventually this will become a problem. We would never do things if we could see the end result. That's going to be bad and unhappy. Now, the big thing is our confusion between these two words. And I want to just put up those two words there. It says pleasure and happiness. We are a bit confused between these two words. And the more we get confused between these two words, we make wrong decisions in our lives. And to clarify the difference between these two words, I want to read you something, just 2 verses from Jesus' life. And it's in John 10:10. And it says, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Okay? So there's a thief, Jesus is saying, there's a thief that can come into your life. He can steal your future, he can kill a relationship, and he can destroy your life. There's a thief that can come into your life that can kill and destroy and steal from you. Now, if I could ask you this morning, who do you think in your life has the greatest potential to steal your future, to kill your relationships around you, and has the greatest potential to destroy your lives? Who do you think is that person that can do the most harm to you? It's ourselves. When we look in the mirror, we realize, I am my own greatest thief. We say it like this in English, I am my worst own enemy. We are our own worst enemies. We could potentially destroy our own lives, cause relationships in our lives to die, to kill relationships in our lives, and we have the potential to destroy our own future. Now you say, Ruan, how do you know this? How can it be that we can destroy our own lives? Well, isn't it true? We all know this. This is not new information that I'm giving you this morning. It's obvious. It's actually so obvious. The reason we are our own worst enemy is because we bought it, we leased it, we ate it, we drank it, too much of it, we smoked it, too much of it, we dated it, and we slept with it. My mom used to tell me, you sleep in that bed, you're going to have to make your own bed. And we can keep on blaming other people. We can even keep on blaming the devil for coming into our lives, destroying, killing. But we are our own worst enemy. We have the greatest potential to cause our own happiness. At the end of the day, to undermine our own happiness. Jesus goes on, and this is extraordinary. I know it's a verse that you've heard before, but this verse, if you could understand this verse, it's really life-changing. It says this, I have come that they may have life. Yeah, okay, Jesus, we know that you have come to give life. That's easy. No, I have come that they may have life and life to the full. He doesn't only say he came to bring life. If you know the King James, what does that last part say? To bring life in abundance. And that word abundance, it means that if people look to somebody's life, they will see somebody that's different. They will see something that's not somebody who is not normal. They will look to your life. If you have that life that Jesus is talking about, you will have a life that other people say, wow, I admire that guy. Not because of his house, not because of his car, but because of something that's inside of him. You think, when I have to make better decisions in my life, I can go and ask that guy because he has life. And it's not even because you admire that guy, not only because everything is going his way. No. Stuff doesn't always work out for him as well. But it's that guy that can stand strong while everything around him is falling apart. It's something from the inside. When Jesus is talking about this word of abundance, I don't know if you have ever seen Days of Our Lives or Sewende Laan. Have you ever seen it? I stopped watching it. Why? Because I can't take it anymore. Not because I it's a bad story. But I can't take it anymore to see the same thing happening over and over again. People making bad choices that undermines their own happiness. You can see it. No, don't do that. Don't go out with that guy. He's the wrong guy. No, don't go out because you have a problem with alcohol. You're going to fall back into old habits. You can anticipate all that trouble, and you see them going through that, making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And then Jesus comes and he says, no, that's not the life I want for you. I don't want you to have a life where you repeat and repeat your mistakes and become in a habit where you are destroying your own life. I want to bring you new life, life in abundance, so that people can look at you and say, there's something different inside of this person. Jesus then goes, the next verse, he goes to something very familiar to the people in those days. I am the good shepherd. We don't understand that because how many of you have ever had sheep at your house? Okay, so we don't really know. Maybe a sheep dog, but we never had sheep. Now I come from the platteland, so there we've seen quite a few sheep. So Jesus is talking to these peoples who were probably all had sheep. They all had some sort of livestock. So Jesus could have this metaphor and they would understand it. He said that I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Okay, listen to this. This is in contrast to the thief. The thief comes and he wants to steal, kill, and destroy. The shepherd not only comes to give life, he comes to lay down his life. Whenever you meet people in this world that is willing to lay down their lives for you, you can trust that guy. Isn't it true? We trust people that is willing to offer their own lives so that our lives can be better. Jesus literally came not to take life, but to give his life away. Whereas the enemy came to kill, destroy, Jesus came to give, to protect, and to build. This is his heart. I am the good shepherd. In contrast to the thief who wants to steal and destroy. I am the good shepherd. You can trust me because you're going to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay down my life. On the cross, I'm going to die for you. I am trustworthy. And when Jesus is saying this, he's actually saying this, if I can paraphrase it. Don't even trust yourself, because you yourself will lead your own life to destruction. You need a shepherd. Now, if you really understand the metaphor in those days, you would take offense with Jesus saying, I am the good shepherd. Because a sheep, I don't know if you've ever seen a sheep, it's one of the most stupidest animals on the planet. You don't get something that's more stupid than a sheep. They can make mistakes over and over and over again, and it's almost as if the shepherd never learns. They always need somebody to protect them. If you leave sheep open in the wild, they will be destroyed. They will even cause their own harm and destruction because they will go to places that they shouldn't. They will eat some of stuff that they shouldn't. That is sheep. So for a moment, we should read this verse and take offense and saying, Jesus, are you comparing me to a sheep? Yes, I am. Because you were the one that bought it. You were the one that leased it, and you went to make more debt. Although you already had enough debt, you went and make more debt and more debt. And you put yourself in a financial situation where you're going to end up being unhappy. You're undermining your own happiness. You're the one that leased it. You're the one that ate it again, and drive through the drive-through again and again and again and again and again. I'm the one who drank it. I'm the one who smoked it. And I am the one who dated it, made wrong choices. In our choices that we make, we undermine our own happiness. Just like sheep. I want to paraphrase that thing that Jesus says, that the thief comes, sin comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. This is how it happens in sin. It comes in the form of sin to us that wants to kill and destroy. So everything that I said this morning, it's not new news. You know it. It ends up with this thing. can we separate these two words to understand clearly the difference between pleasure and happiness? And I know all of us sitting here today, this principle is so important for our kids. It's so important for our kids, even from a small age, to know exactly the difference. If I only did this one principle with my kids, I will feel very successful as a parent. To explain to them, let them understand the difference between pleasure and happiness. You see, God created us with the capacity to enjoy both these things. He made pleasure. I mean, the first miracle that Jesus did was what? Healing somebody? No, it was making wine. He wants us to enjoy life. I mean, of all the things that Jesus could have done in his first miracle, he made wine. The moment Jesus or God created the human beings, he said, I want to put something different in the human beings that the animals don't have. And that's that they will enjoy intimacy. To have pleasure as a husband and a wife who is married, to have pleasure with that intimacy. God created us with the capacity to have both pleasure and happiness. But here's the problem. That pleasure never leads to happiness. But happiness will always lead to pleasure. Let me explain it like this. If I were chasing after pleasure, you know, that pleasures in life, say relationally, in terms of intimacy, and I decided, you know what, I'm not going to get married. I just want the pleasure of intimacy. No commitment. I'm not interested in the rules of happiness. I'm just chasing after the pleasure of intimacy. And I'm not getting married, no commitment. That will always lead to unhappiness. Isn't that true? We all know that. But when we choose to go for happiness, and we choose to get committed, to have a marriage, say, listen, I'm giving my whole life to you. Then when me and my wife get intimate, that pleasure is a godly pleasure. So the one will always lead, pleasure will never lead to happiness, but happiness will always lead to pleasure. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm going to explain it a little bit more. Eventually, pleasure will lose its pleasure and it will become a prison. Think about it. You've seen this before. Just one glass more, 2 glasses, then 3 glasses, then tomorrow night maybe a bottle, and then I start screaming at everybody. And then the pleasure isn't a pleasure anymore, it's a prison. Pleasure always ends up in a prison. First it's a pleasure, then it becomes a habit, then it becomes an addiction, and then it becomes a prison. To the point where I don't even have the free will to choose anymore. I have to do this thing because I'm addicted to it. I'm a slave of this thing. And it totally destroys our happiness. The one thing that we thought this pleasure will lead to happiness was just an immediate thing. It was not a thing that can last and go to happiness. It's so important to understand this. Pleasure always becomes a habit becomes addiction, and it becomes a prison. Paul wrote it like this. He says, don't you know? Yes, Paul, we know. What do you want us to know? I don't know if you've ever seen it, but when I'm in the situation and I have to make a choice or a decision in terms of something that can give me a little bit of pleasure, I never see it for myself. But when somebody else look at it from outside, they can say, it's dangerous. Don't touch that thing. Don't go with her. Don't go with him. Don't get involved with those things. So Paul is saying this as almost like a father to these Christians. And he's saying, don't you know? Don't you know that when you offer yourselves to someone as an obedient slave, you are slaves of the one you obey? So he's using a metaphor again in terms of a slave and somebody who's obeying. A slave, I'm obeying a master. So he's using that metaphor to describe to us what sin does. We are becoming a slave to something. And at the end, when I offer myself to that thing, I'm saying yes and yes again and yes again to that thing. At the end, I end up being in a prison, as a slave, and I don't have the free will to choose anymore. I have to do that thing. I have to get that thing. I have to go shopping. I have to get some of that. We are enslaved. Don't you know that we have become slaves of the one you obey? And then he goes to his point. Whether you are slaves to sin, which leads to death, and he's making the same point as Jesus. Sin leads to death, killing our relationships, the relationships with the people we love the most. We could potentially destroy those relationships. Or to obedience, which leads to righteousness. Such a great word, that righteousness. That word righteousness, don't look at it from a religious perspective. Righteousness means to be in a right standing with somebody. Like me and my wife, to be in a right standing with my wife. But also to be in the right standing with God, and to be in the right standing with myself. Or to obedience, which leads to righteousness. To have great relationships with the people you love the most. So this is where it gets difficult. This is where the trouble comes in. You have an off day, you had a bad day, and then you're thinking to yourself, what can I do to give myself just, we would use other words, just to treat myself a little bit. We're going for that immediate pleasure, no? What can I do now? I didn't have a good day. I just want to do something just to get my mind off of things. Maybe it's shopping. Maybe it's alcohol. And I also drink wine. Don't think I'm against wine. But one glass is enough. What is that one place that you go to for that pleasure? That one thing that you do. Maybe it's the internet. You know what? These days, it's something as simple as Facebook. I'm not against Facebook. I also have a profile picture and everything. I'm not against Facebook. But if it becomes your place where you enjoy a certain pleasure that's stealing from my relationship with my wife or my children, it's stealing time, it's stealing the precious relationship that I have with my loved ones, it's a pleasure. It's something that I'm doing that's undermining my own happiness in the long run. What is that one thing that you opt for? Maybe it's to go buy things. And you know what? These things aren't illegal things, like I joked earlier about the stuff that became legal. It's not about stuff that's illegal. I am older than 18. I can go shop at that liquor store as much as I want to. It's legal. It's not illegal. It's legal. But it's legal things that can become a prison for me. I am older than 18. I can watch any movie that I want to. And children will tell you when they're 13. Now, I can watch this movie now. I'm 13. It's not about being legal. It's about things that becomes a prison. Stealing life from you. God, your heavenly Father, had a certain life for you. He's dreaming about you having life and life in abundance. And we can sometimes be our own worst enemy that's stealing life, killing relationships, and destroying our own future that's ahead of us. Undermining our own happiness with the decisions we make. And it's in those moments that I'm feeling a bit off that day or sad, and I just want to go and have a little bit of pleasure. In those moments, we make the most dangerous choices in our lives that can undermine our happiness. It's in those moments that we need a shepherd. It's in those moments when we are weak, we are like sheep. And we desperately need a shepherd. It makes you, these small little pleasures, it makes you feel or having pleasure immediately. But ultimately, you will always be unhappy. The more you enjoy the small pleasure that you have, the less you become happy. Isn't it true? It's killing that happiness that God is planning for you. Jesus makes your life better, and He wants you to be better at life. I hope you get this morning. That's Jesus' heart. Jesus doesn't have any idea that you should come and worship Him for His sake. Jesus wants to make your life better, and He wants you to be better at life. He has your best interest. When He's saying, obey me, follow me, it's for your sake, not for His, not for this church's sake, it's for your sake. You will never experience your best life on this earth if we don't follow the Good Shepherd. Because if we leave ourselves, and maybe I can just talk this morning about my own life. I know this, that if I had to make decisions and live my life according to myself, I will always destroy it. I will always kill something or a relationship. And I will always steal from myself. So I want to end off this morning with two very confronting questions. Questions that you're going to think, maybe I shouldn't see these questions, because you want to look away from these questions. You know, difficult things in life, we tend to look away from. We just want to go with the easy things. But these two questions that I want to ask you this morning is that while we are in Easter and Jesus dying on the cross, maybe there's something that needs to die in our lives to bring new life. Like Jesus that stood up on the third day, new life. But something needs to die. What pleasure is there in your life that needs to die so that there can be new life? So we will be tempted with these two questions to say, no, I'm not going to answer them. That's the thief inside of us. No, that's telling us, don't answer these questions. And we're not going to do these questions loudly. Nobody can read your mind. I just want you to sit there for a moment with these two questions and just be honest to yourself. The first question is there any pleasure that is undermining your happiness? Simple question. Is there any pleasure, something in your life? It's not something illegal. I'm not talking about stuff that the police will come to your house and arrest you. No. It's maybe. But I'm talking about stuff that's legal. 100% legal. Even the Christians around you will say, no, that thing is fine. Oh, you went shopping. That's nice. But you know this thing is a pleasure. You know this thing in your life is not good. What? Is there any pleasure that is undermining your happiness? Listen here, I know you don't want to admit that there's some pleasure in your life, because then you have to do something about it. I don't want you to do anything about it. You're off the hook. You don't have to do anything about these pleasures. I just want you to sit and think, to be honest with yourself. Nobody's asking you to change anything, except maybe when we go, your wife will tell you, yeah, he was talking about that thing. I'm not talking about you need to admit to something loudly or to change something in your life. I'm just asking you to be honest, just for a moment. What is that pleasure that I look over, that I think it's not a big deal? That thing that is very small, but it's becoming a habit. And then the second question. Is there any pleasure that is slowly making you a prisoner? Slowly making you a prisoner. This is how these things work. We never become a prisoner overnight. Never. Never. It's always slow. It's always slow. A little bit of pleasure, little bit of pleasure, little bit of pleasure becomes all of a sudden something that I can't live without. Is there something in your life that is slowly making you a prisoner? If we keep on saying yes to certain things, we are becoming the thief in our own lives that's causing destruction in our own lives. Would it be possible this Easter, this time when we look and reflect on the cross, that we can exchange our pleasure for a shepherd? saying, Jesus, I have this pleasure, and nobody is really knowing this thing. It's not really a big deal, probably, this pleasure of mine. But I want to lay it down. I want to die to this thing. I want to die to this thing so that there can become new life. And I'm trusting you to be my shepherd. He came and he laid down his life for us. He is trustworthy. We can trust the shepherd. We cannot trust ourselves. We cannot trust ourselves. 2 questions that's really hard to answer. And especially the smaller the pleasures are, the more difficult this question becomes. Let's just close our eyes for a moment. Just reflect on these 2 questions, and then I'm just going to end with some prayer for us. Lord Jesus, thank you that you have our best interests at heart. You want the best for us. Sometimes we follow our own head and we're saying, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. How many times do we rather go to pleasure instead of making the right decisions that can bring happiness? Lord, we don't want to be a community of people who goes for something immediate. We want to be people that's known for making decisions and keeping our future in mind. Not immediately, but ultimately we will be happy. Not an immediate pleasure, ultimate happiness. Lord, thank you that you gave your life on the cross. You died for us so that our lives can change and never be the same again. We trust you as the shepherd. Now we come to you, before you, and we want to lay down our pleasures and we want to exchange it for the good shepherd. Help us to trust you, to obey you, so that we can reach happiness, righteousness, be in right standing with the people we love the most. Help us to see clearly when the thief wants to come, and sometimes ourselves want to make decisions that's destroying, undermining our own happiness and future. Thank you, Lord, for your mercy, your grace, and your love, picking us up and giving us a life of abundance. Amen. Amen. Thank